Good evening. From what I understand from friends, family, and many of my patients, dating, especially when you're older, can feel a bit like walking through a minefield. You never know what to expect next. You've already been through love, loss, and a few heartbreaks, and a couple disappointing dates that left you thinking, why am I even doing this? After 40 years as a psychotherapist, I can tell you that most relationships don't fall apart because of bad luck. They fall apart because the right questions aren't asked early enough. So today you're going to learn the 3 stages of asking the right questions, why you're afraid to ask them, and 9 powerful questions to help you stop wasting time on the wrong people and start recognizing the ones who are right for you. So let's dive in. I like to think of questions in 3 simple stages. So let's start with stage 1. These are your early dates, those first couple of times you're getting to know each other. You want to keep it simple but meaningful, and you're not interviewing them, but you do want to get a sense of who they are beneath the surface and if they're emotionally present at all. So here are 3 questions that start the conversation with some depth, but not so deep that it scares anyone off. And by the way, if they are scared off, well, that tells you something right there. And by the way, every single one of these 9 questions are great questions to ask yourself, so keep that in mind. Number 1, a great question to ask is, what do you look forward to the most in your life right now? I love this question because it tells you what gives their life meaning, what motivates them, what excites them, what lights them up. So instead of putting them on the spot with, what are you looking for in a relationship? This question, what do you look forward to the most in your life right now, helps them open up much more naturally. It also shows you how engaged they are with their own life and if they're still curious and growing. So, question number 2. When you have a weekend to yourself or time off, what do you love to do? So this question gives you a glimpse into their lifestyle, whether they know how to recharge, how independent they are, and whether their idea of downtime fits with yours. It also tells you how comfortable they are in their own skin, or in their own company, or if they spend any time with themselves at all. Because I've found that people who never slow down, who always need noise or company, are often avoiding themselves, and that always shows up in a relationship. Number 3, what's something you've learned about yourself in the last few years, like the last 5 years? Now, because this one's a little deeper, you can choose to go first. So you might say, well, one of the things I've learned about myself in the last few years has been that I realized I used to ignore my own needs to keep the peace, and now I don't do that anymore. And then you invite them to share their thoughts about it as well. This shows whether someone takes ownership of their growth or if they stay stuck in old stories. And that's something you want to know early on. Now, these questions might sound casual, and they're meant to because they reveal how they feel about life. So pay attention not just to what they say, but how they say it. Like, do they answer with enthusiasm, with depth, or do they shrug it off and say, gee, I never thought about it. I don't know. But most importantly, do they also ask you something in return? So now we're going to move into stage 2. So now that there's some comfort and you've shared a few more dates, it's time to go a little deeper. And these questions reveal more of an emotional maturity and values. The first question is, what do you think makes a relationship last? This is a great question because it shows how they actually see partnership, how they handle differences, how they show up when things get hard, and what they believe keeps love alive. In other words, you're asking, basically, what do you think are the ingredients that make a good relationship stand the test of time? And their answer tells you if they've really thought about it. and if they've really thought about what it takes to make something work and whether they're emotionally equipped to build something real, not just fall into something that's convenient. Question number 2. This next question might be my favorite because it uncovers emotional maturity right off the bat. And it's this: what have you learned about yourself from past relationships? Now, this is different than what it was. In fact, wanting to wait and see what have you learned in the last few years. This is what have you learned in your past relationships. Now, when you ask that, you're not asking for a full relationship history. You're looking for how they process life. Like, do they take any responsibility for what didn't work, or is everything someone else's fault? Have they grown from their experiences, or are they still carrying old patterns? Because the truth is, someone who can't look back and reflect on themselves cannot grow with you. And someone who's still blaming the past will repeat it with you. Number 3 is one of my favorite questions. How do you like to show appreciation? And how do you like to be appreciated? This tells you how they express love. Because some people show appreciation through words, others through actions, or others through time spent together. This helps you see how they express care, not just in what they say, but how they actually show it, and their answer gives you a glimpse of whether or not it's compatible with yours. Because the way a person expresses appreciation tells you everything about how they're going to show up with you when it really matters. And you also want to know what it is they need from a partner that makes them feel appreciated. So now we come to stage 3, and this is where things get really interesting. Because now you've been dating for a while, and things are getting more consistent, and you're feeling emotionally connected. And this is the stage where you start exploring what real partnership could look like with this person. And you don't need to ask all 3 of these questions in one date. These are simply the conversations that become important as things deepen. But here's the real issue. Most people wait too long to ask these next questions because they're already attached. And once your heart is involved, the mind starts to overlook things that still may not feel quite right, like those red flags I talked about in the last video, because now they really want it to work. And this is where so many people lose their way. The spark shows up, the chemistry builds, and they start filling in the blanks with who they hope this person is instead of who they really are, because they're afraid to ask the deeper questions now. They tell themselves, I'll ask later once we're closer. But later is when fear steps in, because now you're afraid to ask. Why? Because you're afraid of the answer. You don't even know if you want to know. I mean, what if they don't want what I want? What if they're not ready? What if their honesty ends what we've got going so far? This is why these next 3 questions in stage 3 really matter, because they reveal whether someone's truly aligned with what you want before you're all in. Here we go. Question number 1. What does a meaningful relationship look like to you at this stage of your life? Why is this question so important? Because it helps you understand their intentions. Are they looking for companionship, partnership, or distraction? Because 2 people can have amazing chemistry and still be headed in completely different directions. Asking early on spares you the overthinking and the heartbreak that comes from wondering where someone stands after you're already invested. And once you're invested, you really want to know that because you want to know where you stand. Question number 2. What does commitment look like for you? Now, you're not asking for a commitment, and you're certainly not planning a wedding next month. You're simply finding out what commitment means to them, because at this stage of life, commitment doesn't mean the same thing to everybody. For some people, commitment means, I want to share everyday life with you. For others, it means, well, we make decisions together. And for some, it means, well, now we're exclusive. You want to know what their version looks like so you can see if it matches yours. because their answer shows you what kind of a relationship they're truly prepared for, not just what they say they want. And number 3, this is one of the most important and most avoided questions. Have you had a chance to heal from your last relationship? And it doesn't matter if their last relationship ended 2 months ago or 2 years ago. If they haven't taken the time to reflect or grieve or learn from what happened, that pain is still going to be running the show. If someone hasn't made peace with their past, and you'll know that by whether they still carry resentment, regret, or unhealed hurt, because it's those feelings that will tend to spill into the next relationship they have with you. So how they answer this question will tell you how they handle endings, whether they shut down or come away with a deeper insight into themselves. And honestly, this is a great question to ask yourself as well. Have you had a chance to heal from your last relationship? So now, when you put all 3 stages together, you can see how asking questions is how you find out who can truly meet you where you are. Because the right questions will always reveal truth. And guess what? And I love these 3 words. Truth saves time. So I can give you all these great questions, but here's the real one for you. Will you ask them? Or will you let fear get in the way of the connection you deserve? Because I will tell you from experience, avoiding questions doesn't spare you from pain. It delays it. Asking early doesn't push the right person away. It draws them closer because emotionally ready people aren't afraid of real conversations. So the next time you hesitate, remind yourself, you're not being too much. You're being clear. You know what you want. And if someone gets uncomfortable with honest questions, that discomfort is your answer. So stay open, listen with your whole self, because how someone responds to honesty tells you everything about what life with them will be like. And when you're clear on what you want, what nourishes you, and what you'll never again settle for, you start choosing what feels right for you. And one more thing I really want to add. Many people believe they only get one soulmate in a lifetime, but that's not how it works. You can have more than one soulmate, and a soulmate isn't someone who completes you. It's someone who meets you because you've already done the work of meeting yourself. So for now, just listen more deeply, ask with curiosity, and trust that the right souls, the ones meant for this chapter of your life, will meet you with the same honesty and the same care you're giving yourself. And you will attract the right people when you ask the right questions. So if this spoke to you in any way, I'd love to know in the comments. If today helped, subscribe and share it with someone who needs this. And if you want more on relationships, check out my recent videos, 5 phrases that block closeness and what to say instead. And my last one, the red flags you missed and didn't realize until it was too late. So until then, always remember, there is no one worth knowing more than you.